Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, I guess, a half episode of Spawncast. I've done this before with a couple of people, most notably recently we had Matt Piscatella on. That was a lot of fun. But now I'm joined by Colin Moriarty of Laugh Stand Media fame.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. It's good to see you. Happy New Year.
Yes, yeah, you too. You too. It's a whole new year in front of us that hopefully will be good, but who knows at this rate.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, also, we're recording this on the 13th, so it's like I'm still in the frame of saying Happy New Year. I think it's, 2 weeks? That's what they say, and then you have to kind of let it go.
I know people who, man, as soon as we're not even at New Year's yet, and they're ripping down the Christmas lights, so I don't even know what it is anymore.
Yeah, sure. My neighbor across the street was taking down their Christmas stuff on the 26th, which is like what I was like, well, I thought you kind of got a little grace period, you know.
I leave it up for the New Year's. Usually after New Year's, it's like, maybe we should start taking the stuff down.
Right.
But then you always know that one person who you go over to their house in March and their Christmas tree is still kind of up. Like, okay, so who knows what the rules are anymore. But I had the lights up for a bit and then ripped them down, I think on like the 3rd or something. I think that's about right.
I feel bad because we get a real tree every year and then I have to massacre it at the end. Like it's like it served me well and then I have it like in my garage and I have to like saw it in a bunch of pieces and throw it in the garbage can. I feel like I'm like,
we
dismembering a body.
We used to put it in the trash bags and hoping no one's seeing you throw it in your trunk. We used to get a real tree when I was growing up, and you had to go out there and just like trudge through either the really cold field or the snow, and it's never the first tree you come across, always like the 5th or 6th because someone has a problem with something on it. Then you got to sit there and saw it down for 30 minutes, and then you clean up pine needles for the next 4 weeks. So
right, exactly. Yeah, the pine needles are the worst.
But I don't miss that necessarily. I just got the fake tree. But
I can respect that. I like the smell, like the aromatic of the pine.
Oh sure, yeah, yeah. That was always the best part. Was how it made the living room smell.
Yeah,
back then felt like Christmas. But again, new year in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of stuff I'm sure happening with gaming because man, every day something happens. So I put a few topics down just kind of for fun, but mostly just kind of informal. Just see where the hour takes us.
Sure.
Go from there. Have you you guys kind of, I guess, had some time off for the holidays? Would you get up to playing anything new, anything interesting catch your eye?
Yeah, so we doubled down in December, and like those first 2 weeks are really hard because we never miss a week, so we record everything twice, and then we get a little bit of time, which is nice. So I beat Dying Light the Beast, which was fine.
That was just fine.
Yeah, like I really love, I think the original Dying Light's an extraordinary game. I thought that this was kind of a little weak. I platinumed Marvel Cosmic Invasion, which was cool. I liked it. I'm not a Marvel fan really, but I like brawlers and beat 'em ups. I played Terminator 2D. I probably beat it like a dozen times.
It's good.
It's really, really good, actually. I liked it the more I played it. I wanted to platinum it, but there's that, and I beat it on hard mode, getting an S rank, but there's one for being it on very hard, and you get like no health, you have no lives. I'm like, I don't really know if I have what it takes to do this.
I ran into that with Shinobi Art of Vengeance, where I beat the game and I 100%ed it, but then it's like, okay, now beat the game in less than 10 hours and do everything. It's like, well,
right.
That's the one trophy that's going to hang this whole thing up if I really wanted the platinum? That would have been nice to know that ahead of time. Yeah,
totally. I always try to look and just like feel my way through, because that's what happened with Dying Light. Was like, all right, I beat it, and then there was like a trophy to get all of the blueprints and build. I'm like, all right, fuck this. I'm not doing this or whatever. So then I had to play Kingdom Hearts, the first Kingdom Hearts, for a bet on our and I never played it. So I played and beat that. And then since then I've just been playing. I played through all the Mega Man Legacy Collection stuff again, got all the trophies that I missed in that the first time through. And now I've been playing Mega Man 11, and I was up really late last night. Speaking of trophies, there's a trophy in that game that's like almost impossible. It's to beat Dr. Light's trial, and only 0.3% of people have the trophy, and I finally got it yesterday. So the path should be clear to platinum it now. So that's what I've been really busy with right now. It's a nice quiet time, nothing bombarding me. So
every year I go back and play Mega Man X. That's it. That's the one. Yeah. That's my favorite game in the whole. I know people like Mega Man 2, and I think Mega Man like 3 or 4 usually comes up for people. And Mega Man X, I don't know, something about the X series and kind of where it fell in line for me with the Super Nintendo at the time. And it is a magical game. Some say it's a perfect game even.
What I love about it is that chronologically, in terms of release order, like it goes Mega Man 4, Mega Man 5, Mega Man X, Mega Man 6. Which is so interesting. So they bounced back to NES. Nintendo famously publishes that game, not even Capcom. I love Mega Man X1, 2, X1, X2, and X3.
Mhm.
That's when those games became better than the classic games like Mega Man 7, later Mega Man 8. Like the X games are better. Then it segues back. Mega Man 9, Mega Man 10. These are 8-bit classic games that are way better than anything else. And then Mega Man 11 is like, honestly, it's all right. It's too complicated for
I remember when 9 and 10 came back, kind of humbled some of a lot of people at that time, because the Mega Man came back, and it was 9 and 10 they weren't easy games compared to some of the other platformers at that time. And I remember hearing it from some, because they released it on like it was on the Wii and stuff too. And I would hear from people who were like, what is this? Why is this thing so hard? And I'm like, oh wow, you must be new here. So it was
yeah, dude. Mega Man 9. I was so excited. I was at IGN at the time, or for both 9 and 10, but I like ran around the office when they announced. Like I was like, I can't even, because Mega Man 3 is my favorite game of all time.
Okay.
So it's like, I was like, I can't even believe that they're doing this. And then when 10 came out, I'm like, they're doing it again? Like it was almost like too good to be true. And I really love those games. What's so cool about them is that they're indistinguishable from not Mega Man 1, but 2, 3, 4, where if you just showed someone that didn't really know the games, like can you order them? They wouldn't be able to do it. And I think that's Any Creates they're such a great studio. They did such an awesome job.
Yes, that's one of the reasons I'm really interested in what this new Mega Man is going to look like when it does. I mean, they did the whole contest again where they let people.
My brother submitted something, I think, which is cool.
Oh, did he? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and some people are like, "Oh, look, Mega Man. Look, Capcom's out of ideas." It's like, no, they do this all the time with these Mega Man games, and it was so interesting back in the day because people were color pencils out, drawing these things up, mailing them in with a stamp, the whole thing.
Oh, totally, dude.
I didn't have the artistic flair for that, but I would always go online and people would be like, "Oh, this is the Robot Master I'm gonna come up with," and it was GameFAQs was going crazy a lot of times when these things were happening. Or the early days of the forums online.
Totally,
people were going nuts.
Was on GameFAQs. I was all over GameFAQs. It's funny because Mega Man 1 they made their own bosses, but 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 they were all. So when you beat the games, as you probably know, like they show each boss in the name of the person who designed it, and it's always a Japanese kid. And then in Mega Man 6, I don't know if you remember, they actually opened it up to the West for the first time. It was via Nintendo Power, and 2 of those bosses actually ended up being Western. Windman, I think, is from an American, and Nightman is a Canadian. And that was the first time we ever got to do something like that. So that was awesome. Because back in the day, remember Nintendo Power, people used to design like the beautiful envelopes and send them in, and then they would take pictures of them and put them in the mag. So I used to draw my shitty stuff. It never got in the magazine. I could barely draw a stick figure, so it's not a huge surprise.
Well, back then it was people were drawing out their maps with keyboard symbols and letters and stuff. So that was always the thing that was really impressive to me. It was like, how does this look like? Because you'd zoom out, it doesn't look like anything when you're really close to it. Then you look back up and it looks like the artwork from the game. And I'm like, how is this possible? I can only assume someone just went through and just meticulously figured it all out with, okay, the letter I needs to be here, letter U, and then somehow it all comes together. But those were I think those are such compelling days of the internet that are kind of lost now a bit. I mean, you can go back and look at the stuff, but now people go, it'll go, hey, I'll just upload this from my phone, or ChatGPT draw this dungeon map from this game or something. It's just that was it back then.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'll throw in the chat, like that's how I got my my start. Was I wrote that's how IGN found me, was I used to write a shit ton of GameFAQs. So I was that guy making those stupid maps and those headers and those ASCII art stuff or whatever for no reason. For free.
You did? Look at the header. It's got the Triforce up there and everything.
Yeah. So
wow.
I agree with you. Web 1.0 was a magical and short-lived time. We didn't know how good we had it at the time. It was so good. That segue from Usenet, which I was too young to really use, into like the web in 93, 94 or whatever. Good shit, man. I love it.
As the forums, you'd see that weird anime on Toonami or something back then, and you'd be like, I wonder if other people like this. And that's how you discover it, because there's some weird GeoCities or forum or something out there. And you're like, this is cool. I'm going to sign their guest book.
Oh, dude, I loved it. And in PSM, PlayStation Magazine, I've said this to a few times to people, like they had this thing like a classifieds thing. And like it was at the end of the magazine, and it would be like the bottom of the last 5 pages or whatever. And you just put your name and like you would submit your name and an email address. And then like, these are the games I'm into. And you would hopefully get emails from people. And I met a really good friend through that, like a long time ago. It's just so funny how different it was. I really do miss that era. You used to go. I've been saying it a lot recently. You used to go on the internet. You used to go on the internet, and then you would leave the internet. But now it's always with us.
It's always following you around in your pocket. So sometimes it just is in your face even on TV. They'll just throw a tweet up on news or something like, man, it's all come together here. It was kind of like the internet was connected, but it was quiet, I guess is a way to kind of describe it. Totally. It didn't feel bombarded. It wasn't really, I mean, it was kind of real time because hit send and it would eventually send, but you'd put something on the forum and be like, I'll come back later tonight and see if anything responded.
Right. I would always F5 to see if it posted, and then you'd have to return. Do you remember sending emails and you would have to actually send them? Like they would go to an outbox and then you had to send email, and then it would like send. It was like so strange.
It took a while. You sat there and watched. It was like, or AOL, they'd come in and yell at you that you have mail, and you're like, oh yeah, I should probably check that.
Good stuff, man. I love that.
Those are the good days. Those are the good days. But now it's so different now. And that's one of the things that I think is so interesting about how old are you, Colin?
I'm 41.
Okay. See, I'm 38. So it's a very interesting thing to consider. And I was on the internet pretty early, as it sounds like you were too, to where like I had my dad was in IT and web development. So I remember when we moved to our house where I ended up living until I eventually moved out, we had a second phone line because he always had to be on call. So you have dial up. And that one line that was paid for by his work or his job was always connected, and he had to sometimes dial in and just be there on call, ready to fix something. So I had a computer early because he'd get a computer, they'd hand it down to me, and I had like this 90 megahertz Windows XP, Windows 2000 machine when I was like 8. And it's a weird thing to think back on now because I see the kids currently, like I have 3 kids, and I see them kind of growing up. And the 8-year-old has a Switch and all these devices that are incredibly more powerful than what you had back then. And it's just such an interesting world now to see with the younger generation coming up, but just how much they kind of missed where they go into this world where everyone just has that phone in their pocket that can literally tap any knowledge in human history.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Right there.
It's unbelievable. I love the second phone line thing because you remember like well, maybe you didn't experience this because you had the second phone line, but your internet would freeze, and then like a couple seconds later you'd hear across the house, sorry, because like somebody picked up the phone and they had like, for people that don't know, if you picked up the phone when dial-up was on, it would disconnect, and so like the AOL thing or whatever would freeze, and then someone would acknowledge it. So my dad's a great man, but something he wouldn't necessarily do, but he did this for me, was in 10th grade, he got me my own phone line.
Oh, so that's cool.
In my room, so that, because I think he was just tired of dealing with me being on the and then I ran up $1,000 phone bill by accidentally connecting to a long distance number on AOL. So that was fun. But yeah, those were the days, dude, of like just being on AIM and ICQ and IRC and we went on. I got online, I think in 96, 95, something like that. And so it was it was crazy. It just
was right around when I got online, yeah.
And I was obsessed with it. I'm not going to pretend like I wasn't. Obviously. But I was like, I can't believe how great this is. But I didn't know it was going to take over my whole life like this either. But
yes, the same. It was just a fascinating thing to see, because there were also like I was really into Dragon Ball Z at the time, and I realized, oh wait, Japan knows everything that's going to happen because they've already had this stuff aired. So I go online and I see all the spoilers, and it sounds ridiculous. This guy from the future comes back and all, is no way. And then it actually happens. Like, oh, okay, well, that's actually amazing. But I did have the single phone line situation at our older house, to where you're right. Someone picked up the phone and it would be like screaming weird tones and dial up like all kinds of stuff at the person who picks up the phone. But that's why we eventually had to get the second phone line, because we experienced, all of that. And then like the slower download speeds, and now everything's just instantaneous. And
dude, it's unthinkable. It's unthinkable how slow it was. We loved it, but it was so slow. It was crazy.
It was and even the early days of emulation and stuff. One of the guys that's been on their podcast and I'll play games with still now is he ended up designing a lot of stuff back then, emulation and things for the original Xbox when that got blown wide open. And now I come to find out, I was actually using some of your stuff on the original Xbox back in the early 2000s when it got hacked and stuff. So it's like small world, but the slower download speeds, took like 10-15 minutes to download a 4 megabyte song.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Because I remember when we got cable, which I think was in, or maybe it was even DSL in 2001 or 2002. I immediately went and downloaded a song that I already had just to see how quick it was. And I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
amazing. And then video became you could start downloading music videos and all sorts. It was cool, man. Oh, it was fun.
Yeah, because I remember one day my dad came home and was like, yo, we got this thing called T1 at work. I'm like, what is that? Oh, I downloaded a 100 megabyte file for work in like a minute. I'm like, how is that possible? And now it's like, this 100 megabyte file is gonna take a minute to download. What is this? Why does it take it so long?
It's awesome.
So it's amazing how different things are. But then I also think about it, and what you mentioned, like 95, 96, something like that. That's 30 years ago, right? So you think about the advancement, it's like that didn't actually take that long going from point A to point B with everything that's happened. So part of that, of course, then comes back to a lot of the stuff that is probably going to be going on over the next 10 or 20 years. So I do want to come back to that, kind of our thoughts about what could happen, things could look like in about 20 years or so. Sure. But I did want to bring up something that I've heard you say a few times now. I think it's very interesting, is the idea that there are just too many games releasing. Like
way too many.
There's just too much stuff out there right now. Games are dropping all over the place. And I did look into this a bit, and it's funny to think about. You are absolutely onto something with that, because I'm sure you've also looked into how many games, for example, release on Steam each year.
Yeah, it's like 20,000 or something, isn't it? Something crazy like that?
Yeah. So last year alone, 19,000 games released on Steam.
That's unbelievable.
Which is absurd, because if you look at, I think about the PS2, there was, if you just do unique games, people go regional difference, games that release here but not there, and they bring it all together into one pile. I think about games that would be even just globally released, and that whittles the number down to like 4,600 games over the lifetime of the PS2. And we're talking about more than 4 times that just last year on Steam.
Yeah, it's not sustainable. It's not good for anybody. Some people think it's like, spilt milk for me because I own a developer, and then people are like, well, you're contributing to it or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but we're willing to participate in the market. I'm just telling you like what's obviously true, which is that there's like a lot of trash on the market and just way too many games. And it's affecting things at the higher level too. One of the things I've been really reflecting on Sacred Symbols this past year was nothing seems to, even the games people love. So think about like Silk Song. Sells many millions of copies. It's on Game Pass. People love it. It still has no zeitgeist. Like people really don't. It actually kind of just came and went because everything is so overwhelmed by the next option that you're not able to kind of marinate into anything. So even the games people truly universally love are almost not forgotten about. People are playing them by the millions, but they have no juice, and that's bad. I mean, it means that games are only truly super relevant in a very ephemeral moment. And that's what bothers me about the whole drive for AI and all this shit too, is like, they're like, well, we need to make our games easier and we need solutions to be quicker. And I'm like, no, you don't. Like, you're solving problems that don't exist. No one has a demand for your game. Remember back in the day, I know this acutely because at IGN, when I was a freelancer, I used to do the database stuff. So like put the release dates in and stuff. And there would just be like weeks and months sometimes where nothing came out for anything.
Yep.
Like, there would be like Madden or something in the summer, and then like that was it, or like some random game would come to GameCube, but you had time to think, to go back, to dwell. And so options are good, but I'm not really entirely sure what this level of optionality, who it serves. I don't think it serves Sony or Microsoft or Nintendo. I don't think it serves the players. I don't think it serves the publishers. PSN is flooded with garbage. They don't seem to give a shit. Steam is obviously flooded with garbage. Switch is flooded with garbage. I don't really know why. That's like the big question I have, is why? And what stops you from standing in front of some of these releases and saying, we don't want this. This is going to sell 150 copies, literally.
Right.
We have to send it through certification. Someone has to manage this thing on the side. We're not making anything on this. We're losing money on this. So like, it's just so weird. And they just give away dev kits to anyone, and it's fine, because again, people will say like, look at your shitty little indie games, and I'm like, I would contest my indie games are better than a vast majority of the games that are on PSN. So yeah, I think it's a huge problem, and I find it puzzling why the solutions seem to be to make games quicker and easier. It's like, okay, have fun, It's going to get worse and worse if that happens.
It's interesting you mentioned that because the flooding of just, you could say, shovelware junk. I mean, you look at some of it and you do question, did AI make this game almost, the asset flips, etc. But like on Steam, we just talked about how last year 19,000 games released according to Steam DB, so it'll track games as they hit the database. But about half of those games have less than 10 reviews. So they are really just thrown out into ether, and there's like, maybe we'll get some, as you mentioned, 100 purchases of this $10 game or something. And I do wonder if it really is just that. It's this just groups of companies that are almost shell companies, because there are a few times where they've gotten into the headlines of the news, and then people will start to take a look at these companies. And I did this one time, and it wasn't for that remember that abandoned game that somehow ended up on Sony, and it got to the point
I had
people
him on the
show. Okay, yeah. So that ended up being one, but there were others where there were just asset flips popping up, and people will look at the company, they link to another company, who then links to a company, who's then is out somewhere in like Europe or something, but then it traced them back to the US, then back to like Australia. It's all over the place. And then eventually you realize, oh, they just do this all the time. They asset flip games, they buy assets off of Unreal Store, and then they just pump out games every week trying to just cast this massive wide net and bring in a couple $1,000s a month.
Yeah, it is interesting. Well, that's the thing, is that it's like what people say about posting on Twitter, like how like when all the foreign accounts got found out, and it's like oh, you're posting from India or Nigeria or whatever, but it's like, yeah, and they're not making very much money, but for their locality they're actually making an extraordinary amount of money, maybe $500 a month or something. So like, you allow these bad actors to flood otherwise virtuous marketplaces, in my opinion. And I just don't really understand who it serves. I go through the PSN all the time. We actually do streams sometimes where I go through the PSN and we just look at games, and there's a lot of cool shit. But it's AI generated art, it's asset flips, it's games that are copying other games. And I'm like, where is the goalie? I don't understand how you don't just, have some sort of rule set about what can get on your storefront, and that the geography that these games take up on, like, storefronts and in most recently released products and all the rest, it is unfortunate, because that geography is sometimes all game gets, and then it gets shoved down 40 spots in a day and it's over.
Yes.
And I just don't understand. So strategically, listen, I want to be really clear. I think there should be a libertarian storefront, and I think that's Steam. But I think the consoles come from a different heritage. Atari obviously was overrun with shovelware, and then Nintendo really put that out. And it used to be difficult to get games. Even think about Wii, right? Like Carnival Games. That was classic shovelware that was like available at the counter of GameStop or whatever. But you had to like publish it. You had to put it on disc. It had to work. It had to pass certification. There was just a boundary to it that is gone now. And I don't understand, like, who really supports this. It's
right.
Weird. Who wants this? I'd love to know more about that.
You do mention it. It's a good point that we kind of had just a filter that was there by default before the digital age took over, to where somebody had to put up money to get the thing on disc, to get it distributed. There's a lot of logistical stuff that has to happen behind the scenes to get that Carnival Games to the counter. Even if you look at it and go, yeah, it's trying to get a quick $20 cash in or whatever at Christmas time, but someone had to go, you know what, we're going to take a chance on this thing. Whereas it seems like Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, there's like, yeah, whatever. Just the store's open. Just if you want, as long as it doesn't break the system completely or put some kind of virus or some craziness, as long as it checks a couple of basic boxes, it's in. Doesn't matter where you got these assets from, I guess. You look at the Switch marketplace, it's craziness. There's like 18 plus games all over it. You almost can't, like I said, the kids are playing on the Switch in the house, and I kind of go, don't worry about the storefront. I'll help you if you need a game, kind of thing. I'll do it, because you go in recent releases, and it looks insane. Like, you scroll through just the covers, I go, how is that even on there?
Right.
If the target audience, it's a very generalized audience, but it's very clear that they have a younger audience that logs on all the time, every day even, and they just see some foolishness happening in this recent release tabs.
It's especially ironic on Nintendo because of their history of being very prudish, and now they're really like kind of on the forefront of those kinds of games, while Sony has taken up the mantle of the prude. But to me, I just don't know what this particular market serves. And I think, again, I bring up Silksong as an example, but you can really use any game that came out last year. Like, it's big and people love it. Kingdom Come Deliverance or something. But that game would have, remember when Fallout 3 came out and then everyone talked about it for like 2 years?
Yep.
Or
Yep.
Grand Theft Auto 4 or something like that. I'm not saying that we have to go back to a more limited market like that, but at the same time, I feel like that served the industry and served players better than it does now. And I've said many times that if I were Sony, I would invest literally a couple $1 million a year into what I would consider like a dozen people maybe or something that worked at my company, and their entire role would be to serve as goaltenders for the PSN. Like, and it's not even like, do you like this game or don't you? It's more like, what is this game? Like, what are you trying to do? Is this a game where you get all the trophies in 10 minutes? Garbage. Is this a game that's copying mouthwashing? Garbage. Is this like, someone should be standing there and being like, no, we don't, just because you have a dev kit doesn't mean, and you submitted something doesn't mean that it gets published, but literally that's how it goes. And a lot of these games do exist to farm trophies. A lot of these games do exist to trick people into thinking that there's something else. A lot of these games do exist to carve out small amounts of money that are irrelevant to Western developers because their market in the East or in some developing countries is different. I just don't understand it. And I think until they do something about that, it's just going to get worse and worse. And then, like I said, you have this amplified problem when everyone's like, well, now AI is going to make we'll be able to get our games out cheaper and quicker. And I'm like, oh, good. That's fantastic. That's wonderful. That's all we need is an expedited way to get your games out now. Good.
Yeah, I do notice you mentioned the need for the next big thing almost like yesterday. It's, as the game comes out, it's like, okay, what's next week? What's happening? So you're right. The games do they release, people play that maybe for the next day or even week, people will talk about it and they just move on immediately. And it does seem that there is that kind of mindset that's been in place. And it kind of feels like since the live service stuff really took off and there are seasonal updates, there are those crossovers, and how it's the constant update for multiplayer games. But then I'll think back to that 360 PS3 generation, even where online multiplayer really was taken off, and they'd release a game and this is the multiplayer. You can make a room, play some games. There might be matchmaking, like Halo as an example. And then we're just moving on. You guys, that's it. There's no big updates outside of some crazy game-breaking thing that we have to patch. Otherwise, no, you guys have it. We're moving on. Mario Kart World came out, and I in my mind, it's like Mario Kart's Mario Kart. It's out. You play online with some friends, and people are like, okay, where's the update? Like where's the content roadmap? And it's like, oh, I thought it's just Mario Kart. I don't know. You just race.
Right. I'm the same way. I think a lot of multiplayer developers, listen, I didn't like the era of staple DOM multiplayer, like BioShock 2 had multiplayer and stuff. That shit was annoying. But at the same time, it seems like no one wants to make a multiplayer experience with the understanding that this is an ephemeral thing that will exist for a few years and then it'll be over like any other game. Now you have this pressure of editing and be like, it'll never die. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it's not even possible. Like, just embrace sanity a little bit. It's you don't have to be arc raiders to fucking enter the market, like you could put something out and accept that people will play it for a few months. That's the way it used to be, unless your game was extraordinary, and that's up to the player. So I agree with you completely. It's I'm not a multiplayer person really, so I'm not affected by that, but I see it and it's silly. And people, games as a service, it is what it is, but it's just so funny that everyone wants to be that instead, which is, I understand monetarily, but it's very risky, as opposed to embracing, let's see what happens. Let's let the players dictate what happens. Is there even a player base? Let's not even worry about the roadmap. Can you even attract anyone?
That's true. People are so entrenched right now in Fortnite, or as you mentioned, Arc Raiders now, or Call of Duty Warzone, or whatever. There's so many live service games that are like pillars. And it's hard to pull people away because those are their social experiences. Those are their AIM chat rooms, from back in the day. It's Fortnite. Hey, jump on. We're going to play for a bit. Okay. That's it. That's their nightly social interaction for people who are just going to work during the day and they want to come home and not go through an hour-long introduction for a brand new open world game that's single player where they sit there and just kind of watch it happen in front of them. But so the biggest casualty I feel like with this whole thing, this whole want and need for the live service, the updates, it's got to be Last of Us Online.
It's such a strange story, that whole thing. You know,
yeah, that it always sticks out to me as what could have been if they just said, you know what, it doesn't have to be Fortnite or the next big, it doesn't have to be the Division. That's kind of what I always picture with that game. It's the Division 2 that's still ongoing, Division 3 coming up, but Naughty Dog would be stuck with this game, updating it for the next decade. That would have been apparently the strategy. Otherwise, it could have just come out a year of updates, and then guys, we're moving on. We're making Intergalactic or something.
Right, and I think that the game would be highly playable to a lot of people for years. Very similar to what Factions was. People still play Factions. They haven't updated Factions in over a decade. So I don't even want to get like. It's so funny because my audience they get so annoyed about it, but I'm like, these motherfuckers made this game. I know people that played it. It was well along, and people were enjoying it. And then they're like, wait a minute. We just spent all this time and money making this game, but we have to actually support it when it's on. I didn't realize that. You know, and then like cancel. And I'm like, what a weird decision. I understand canceling some of the other games. A lot of the games that they canceled weren't even announced, Twisted Metal or the God of War game or something. But just knowing people again that played that game, they're like, this is great. And then them being like, you know,
it's strange that wasn't known. I guess they, depending on when they started development, the whole live service thing is very much just constantly evolving. But I don't know. It feels like they would have had to have realized that when they start dumping millions of dollars into the project. It's like, oh wait, eventually it has to come out. And then what? Do we move on or do we keep update? Oh, we have to keep updating it. Okay.
Strange. Yeah, a strange decision from multiple perspectives. But yeah, it's a great example, like you said, of like this thing that could have been an event. I guess what we're saying is, and I think we both agree, is like it seems like multiplayer games can't be events. They have to be this perpetual thing. And I don't understand that.
Yeah, so. It's like I feel like if it was early PS4 days, that game would have come out.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just I really feel like with Naughty Dog, it's a shame because they wasted so much primary energy for their main team on this, which is the reason I would assume that it's, you know, something like Intergalactic is taking so long. So, yeah, I don't know. That's Sony's mismanaged all that shit. So, and that's, look at Bungie. My God.
Yeah, they're another interesting one because that's the story of you get a live service game to work, but you're too afraid to move on from it. So you hold on to it tightly until it starts to kind of dwindle. And then you go, oh, maybe we should have made Destiny 3. Huh. Let's start that now. Well, it's kind of late because it takes forever to make a game now.
Yeah, Bungie, I think, got too cute with a lot of stuff too. Like really what they should have been doing, and this is what Gran Turismo should be doing in other Sony properties too, is like really focusing more on making like not a launcher, because I mean it would be on PSN or whatever, but something that's like just called, you know, whatever, Gran Turismo. And you just kind of update it for many, many years. And Destiny, like they would seal off a lot of old stuff and then they would bring it back and then it would be unavailable. And it's like, just make a pantheon of shit. Like, I don't understand what you don't understand about that and make it a platform thing. So, but yeah, I mean, Bungie is, again, I don't play those. I don't care about Bungie, but I just can't believe Sony bought Bungie. It's like, what a blunder. What a stupid acquisition. From the very minute it happened, I was like, this is dumb. And it's even worse than I ever could have imagined. So
I will be playing which Marathon when that comes out. I gotta see it.
It's gonna be all over it too.
Yeah.
I think it'll do well, actually. But will it be sticky? I don't know, but I think it'll be fine.
I did jump into Arc Raiders to see what that was all about, and I kind of see the vision for the extraction shooter, but I have to see if Bungie can pull it off. So we'll see there. You've been bringing up AI a couple of times now, so I feel like there is some interest from you.
Yeah, I guess in just that, you know, I'm really distressed by. There's something obviously inexorable and unavoidable about the progress of AI. I understand that. I don't want to stand in the way of it. I also think it's really useful in a lot of ways. I've always said that I have ChatGPT on my phone and I basically use it as like a search engine. Yep. Like, what is this? Or whatever. And I think that's awesome. It's a great repository of information and you can interact with it. And so I think that's cool. But I find it distressing and weird, not only that developers and publishers openly talk about using AI, but that the audiences don't really seem to care. And what really hit me as being truly fucking weird was, I think it was Larian saying like, oh yeah, when we like, mock up things or trying to figure things out, I'm like, wait a minute, what? Like, you're having AI give you concept art?
Yeah,
like
ideas.
Like, to me, I isn't that the point? I write the stories for my little indie games, right? And it's like, that's fun. I just make it up. It's all made up out of my head. That's the fun part. And like executing on the math and the programming and all that stuff is different. I almost understand using AI there, but it's like, so we're using AI for the humanities now. That's what you're saying. You're using AI where it's like, yeah, I envision this post-apocalyptic scene. Show me what that might look like. And it's like, well, so now it's the computer's idea. Like, what? I am so flabbergasted by people's incuriousness about this, let's say. Like they're just like, yeah, that's fine. Whatever gets me more games, better games. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel like the human touch is really important. Very similar to a song, very similar to a novel, very similar to all those things. Like, I want to know what person came up with this. I don't want to think that someone put in a prompt in AI, got some really compelling art, and then designed something around it. It's a weird form of plagiarism, really. And I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. I don't get it. And I don't know why it has to go in that direction. So that's what annoys me about it. I'm not a Luddite. I understand that like things are happening, someone's going to do it, all the rest, but I wonder where the consumers' heads are in being fed this sort of garbage and not caring about it. I find that very distressing.
So you know how, I don't know if it's just me who noticed this, but Unreal Engine, obviously a heavily leveraged middleware for the industry right now. Have you noticed that you see an Unreal Engine game and then you see another one and then another one, and you start to kind of notice similarities in, I don't know, art style, structure of the visuals? You're like, okay, I see similarities here for Unreal Engine, this game versus this one versus this one. I'm kind of thinking we may start noticing that with AI games as well. Like, we're going to see games probably in the next 5 or 6 years where AI does a large amount of work. We don't hear about it immediately. We'll hear about it 2 or 3 years later when they're at GDC and they're like, here's how AI shaped the world for the game that we released and sold 10 million copies and you guys didn't know, basically. And I think we're gonna get to that, because have you seen on Twitter X or whatever, when someone goes, AI made this, look at it, and it's like it's a game. And there was one where the person was running through, it was almost like a downtown area of New York City, like military kind of shooter. They're like jumping on the helicopter, everything looks all messed up, basically. Like the rope is like backwards going through the person's arm, and I'm like, what is this? I'm envisioning a world where they get it to where it's much better, but you still look at it and go, did a human make this? Or is this
sure
AI? You start to kind of blend together, almost that Unreal Engine effect.
And like you said, like there's a lot of middleware like SpeedTree and stuff like that that like basically do act as AI in their own way, and we have to kind of accommodate and allow for that, I think. But it's funny, I keep telling my audience that it's like what you were saying with AI. Someone shows a picture, it's like, this is AI, look at this stupid AI, it's got 6 fingers on the human. And I'm like, if you're really thinking that this isn't going to be cleaned up in a few years to the point of you not noticing, then you're crazy. And that's why it's a bad place to kind of set up your Mott and Bailey kind of situation. It's like you can't make the argument. It's like someone bakes you a cake and you eat it and you love it, and they're like, oh, by the way, there was shit in it. You know, when you're like, well, yeah, what? But they're like, you liked it though. You know, so it's no big deal. And I'm like, but it's kind of a similar thing where it's like, well, you're at some point very soon, you will not be able to tell. And that's why it's a bad argument. Rather, the argument should be like, should you be doing this at all if you're a creative? And are you really a creative? Like, are you a concept artist if you're using ChatGPT? Are you? Is it coming from you or is it coming from something else? And I feel like that's weird. Like, what if we found out that, I don't know, J.K. Rowling was creating another Harry Potter and then she just had ChatGPT write it, no one knew, and everyone loved it, but then you found that out. It's like, well, what really matters? Was it the quality of the product and that you liked it, or was it where it came from? And like factory farming, for instance, like there's all of these different parallels. Well, you loved the beef. The cow was tortured, but you did like the beef, you know? And I just think that that's a shitty approach, I feel like we're losing the human element, or we're going to lose the human element. And then you have to wonder, like, why don't we just crawl in the battery pods already and just be done? Like, well, what's the point?
There's always some kind of resistance from usually the mainstream or just everyday people when new technology breaks onto the scene. We talk about the early days of the internet. A lot of pushback back then too. The early days of the internet, the calculator, all the basic things. I remember in school, they're like, you are not ever allowed to use a calculator. But eventually I walk into high school and they're like, all right, get your calculators out. It's like, oh,
right.
All right, whatever. Okay, cool.
Right. I think they realized, it was like, you understand like, we want you to be able to do this functionally, but then you realize, like, well, you're never going to be in a situation where you have to do it without a calculator. So that's, but I get, like, you don't want to be, like I said, you don't want to be a Luddite and be like, well, no, get away. I want to live in the woods and all this. But at the same time, you have to calibrate things to maintain our humanity. Like, where do we go with creativity if not art? If they're going to take this, then there's nothing left. Like, that's I guess the problem I have is that there's literally nothing left. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I will tell you the thing I have noticed, the shift I've noticed right now is that I do think there are a lot of people, a lot of gamers who are starting to go, hold on a minute, this AI thing, I don't like this now all of a sudden. And I think it's because the thing I've said with AI is it has to eventually do something that is almost tangible to people, like a big breakthrough or discovery, something that just impacts their lives immediately and makes it better, or that people are just going to start to get kind of tired of it. Or if it is the opposite and it makes their lives harder, they're going to start getting really annoyed and push back on it. And what are we seeing right now? All this talk around AI data centers, DRAM squeeze is on right now, and prices are going up. We're more than 5 years into the generation, and the prices are going the opposite direction on game consoles currently.
Yeah, never happened.
No, it makes no sense to see this right now, because I went back to when the PS4 was roughly 5 years in, and we had the Spider-Man PlayStation 4 Slim bundle that was $200 at Black Friday. And then I look at the Black Friday deals now, and it's like, oh wait, it was the same price as the PS5 when it came out in 2020. That was the discount basically for the digital version. It's like, wow, this is not great. So now people are getting pretty frustrated, I've noticed, in gaming around AI, because the situation doesn't look great for the next couple of years. I will say that. It seems like AI data centers will be building for the next, hate to say it, 3 to 4 years minimum. So
yeah, it seems like that. And I think you're right also that people's tolerance for this, I think, will lessen and lessen as this proceeds, because it is trying to create a market need that might not even really exist. So, like, as you're saying, like, everything's cratering, and it's being put into this what seems like a virtuous cycle of AI, data centers and all this, and all these different companies investing in each other, boosting each other up, and creating a run on all these components. It's and plus inflation, I mean, is another part of it too, because inflation's just, I mean, it's better now, but inflation's permanent. So if you experience 20% in inflation and then inflation stops or gets back to normal, it doesn't mean that 20% goes away. It's just permanently built in now. And so it's all sorts of screwed up. And I totally agree. That's what's so the ill timing of the Steam machine, and the idea that PlayStation 6 would be delayed, which I think would be awesome. I don't think there's any demand for a PlayStation 6.
You're on board with the potential delay, quiet delay of the
well, I think it's complicated, because I think there's multiple things to consider, right? Well, first of all, Sony doesn't just build a machine. They have massive contracts that speak years ahead of time. And so it's entirely possible their component prices are incredibly reasonable. Mm-hmm. Remember, the rumors are that they want to get this PS6 out cheaper than the PS5 Pro is right now. And a lot of this happens because of silicon die, like the die cast and all the kind of stuff. The things I don't understand. And so that's possible if that's in other words, they might have a price on these things and be like, well, this is what we're getting in 2027. There's really no reason to delay. But the other side of it is, I don't know that there's really any demand for this machine. The generations are just different now. And I feel like the PS5 has barely been cracked open. And I know that's weird because it's been out for a long time now. It's been more than 5 years. But it just doesn't feel like we're even halfway through the generation. So anything that delays it or lets them punt once or twice, I think would be good. But I'm not entirely sure it's possible either. Like, things are in motion. It's hard to, like, people are making games and like doing, it's hard to stop the train. And I don't know that they'll be able to really, I don't know if it behooves them to do it. And but we'll see what happens. But I'd be total, dude. I'd be down to not get a PS6 until 2030.
I would like to see. I have no problem with them pushing the PS6, as you mentioned, to 2030. But I would like to see that handheld come out in the next couple of years, because I think that's something that it would play the PS5 games, with some obvious downgrades to accommodate the smaller system, the battery reliance, that kind of thing. But I think that would be a nice stopgap for people to pick up some new piece of hardware in the holiday season, support it for a couple of years, and then run into the PS6 in 2030. So if that handheld came out next year, even 2027, I'd say, holiday 2027, I'd say, that's good, because I'm actually kind of maybe even a little more interested to see Sony return to the handheld market, because they would bring something that I think is missing a bit from the handheld market. I think Nintendo brought some of that because their system isn't a massive brick, but there was like an elegance almost to the PSP and the Vita that I kind of think is missing a bit. Like, there was a design philosophy of, we're not going to make this thing a brick cell phone and just completely functional, which maybe a little bit of the PlayStation Portal disappointed me somewhat, because it looked like they were like, whatever, it's functional, just slap the handles on it, who cares?
Right.
And the thing is, if they go all out with a dedicated handheld, I'd like them to solve almost the design issues that I see with a lot of these systems showing up, where it is just this massive, they're not portable systems as much anymore. They are by nature, because they don't need to be plugged in when you're playing a game. You're not putting it in your pocket. You're barely fitting it in a bag. So that's the thing I'd like to see them solve, is that design.
Well, I think I say this many times to my audience. It's like, it cannot be understated that Sony's an electronics company. It's their major advantage over their competitors. It's like, they're an electronics company. They make a lot of stuff, and they have a huge heritage of making things that are really, really important and beautiful. Like people always bring up the Walkman or something. It's like something that you don't know you need. Look at how beautiful it is. Look how compact it is. And they've done this over and over again. So I think that is one of their major advantages, comparable to, now they get too cute with it sometimes. Like, I hate the way the PS5 looks. I think it's ugly. I think the Xbox Series X is a way better looking machine. But at the same time, they worry about a lot of things like ergonomics and, how things feel and how things look and how things fit. PS2 was a big thing like that, where they're like, we want this thing to fit nicely in your.
Which system looks the best to you? The PlayStation's run. Which one do you like the most in terms of the look?
Probably PS2 or PS3 Slim, but PS4 is nice as well. I think too, and PS4 Pro.
The PS4, you're right. The PS4 does have that nice aesthetic to it, where it looks like it's the rectangle that got shifted. Like,
right. And then the Pro was just like another stack on top of that, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was the ice cream sandwich. Yeah, that was fun. The PS2, I still think I look at it's just such a major shift from what the PS1 looked like. I mean, the color, the tone, everything about it just looks so much different. But that one's always stood out to me as like, man, this thing looks like a video game system. When I saw it, it's like, this is it right here.
It was
I get why the military is scared of this thing. I get it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like they're using them in farms or whatever. What I remember about the PS2 when I got it at launch or whatever, I was in 10th grade, I guess, was the light, like the light colors, like the green and blue lights. They felt so futuristic, and you could tell Sony was like, yes, now we want you to have this in your, and because it's DVD player too, we want it to be subtle but eye-catching. We want it to be industrial, but you notice it. And I really think they nailed it with the original PS2. But it's those light colors that are always on the buttons that are always stand out to me, because I was like, wow, this feels so next level. It's not a red LED or something like on the NES or the SNES or something. It's like something else. I'll always remember that.
There was that. So the thing that was really funny about the PS2, I would always remember when I'd stay, because my friend had a PS2 like a year or two before I did back then. You always had that friend. Like I had the GameCube, they had the PS2. That's how it worked. Early on, back then, you waited to a Christmas or a birthday to ask for the system. That's just how it was for us, And I remember when you sleep over at their house, something in the middle of the night, you just see the PS2 in standby mode, that red light just looking at you, like, yeah, there it is, the PS2 over there. It was awesome. Because the GameCube didn't have that. I remember I'd just be like, that thing is just on standby. It's just ready. I think it's just standby.
And what was so exciting about the PS2 too for me was just like the DVD player functionality. Like I think a lot of people that weren't there at the time really don't understand how big of a deal that was, and how people, like a lot of people had like 1 or 2 games and then like 40 DVDs, because it was like it was just so smart. And I know that they tried to do that again with Blu-ray, and it ultimately worked, but they were just too early with the PS3. Yep. But you could see they're like, we're going to do it again. You know,
well, it was a conversation starter, even if you were a kid, to try to get the parents to just that little extra to be like, it's also a DVD player, and we don't have one of those.
Yeah, so. And it was like the cheapest DVD player you can get. I mean, that was the whole argument with PS3, it was cheaper Blu-ray player than any other Blu-ray player. Of course, Sony was subsidizing the hell out of the PS3 and losing like $300 on every one of them or whatever. But nonetheless,
what do you think the big shift would be for next generation for Sony? Because we saw from the PS4 to the PS5, I still say the SSD is a bigger deal than people think of. Right? Go back and play I went back to Anthem just to see the last day. I had it on disc. It let me in. Let me get some footage of this. I spent minutes on end on load screens, just waiting to get in. Not even like load screens of, we're contacting a server, loading into the world, the bar that fills up.
Right.
You don't see that very often anymore. And I think going from mechanical hard drive to SSD, bigger deal than people think, unless they go back and try it for themselves, then they'll realize. What's the jump for the 5 to the 6? Is there anything left that could actually make people go, okay, I see it, I get it?
Yeah, I think obviously it's going to be a more powerful machine, and I think a lot of people are talking about now not so much the aesthetic of games, but what a game can do. A Fallout 3 with very dynamic characters or something like that, or worlds that are seamlessly loaded, like you're saying. I mean, even going back and playing Spider-Man 1 and then playing it on PS5, it's so funny, as you probably know, like they have the option to just turn the subway system stuff back on because they just can skip it entirely. And when I went back to play before Yote came out, and I played Tsushima on PS5, which I played on PS4, it's like, this is awesome. Like, this is incredible. And playing Yote, it's like, this is incredible. Like, you could just go anywhere instantaneously. It's a completely, you're absolutely right. It's wild, life-changing stuff as far as the lack of load times. It would drive us. It would be like witchcraft years ago. I think, unfortunately, because I think this conflicts with what you're saying about getting the handheld out first, is I think their next move is to be like, well, now we're going to have this dynamic ecosystem where you can send your games back and forth between this handheld and this console. Yep. And we already see it because they're already starting to like play with like power throttling on PS5, which is going to be necessary to, low power modes, which they say is ostensibly for ecological reasons. Yeah. But
I sit here and I go, man, I need that low power mode on. I gotta
exactly. It's so funny. So I don't know. So that's going to be the next move, I think, is those two things interplaying with each other. I think that's what they want.
I do like the idea of it. We always talk, these consoles end up being very GPU heavy. It does feel like we've reached not necessarily limits, but the upper threshold of it, to where you look at a game and go, if this is like, if I'm playing Ghost of Yote on the big OLED screen, I look and I go, man, if this is as good as scenery looks in the game, I'm like, that might be fine. I think this is it. But maybe they look at it and go, we can do a lot more on the CPU side. Let's kind of even things out, and let's have a CPU that's maybe caught up a bit more to that GPU, and we do have more dynamic worlds, more interesting characters, NPCs that do follow, as has been mentioned a lot, a set structure, a schedule. Everything's more thought out on their end. That I think could be something to at least bring the open world. As it's gotten better, but it's kind of like you see, what to expect when you go into an open world game with quest markers and stuff for the most part. So I wouldn't mind seeing a bit of a jump on that, and maybe that's what something like GTA 6 ends up doing. Maybe it shows us like, oh, okay, this is what a next-gen open world could be. I thought it was going to be Cyberpunk, and it didn't quite get there. So,
dude, Cyberpunk was so good. But yeah, the dynamics of the world, I think, are going to be what's next. And you're absolutely right that I think the first game I saw on PS5 where I was like, geez, was Horizon Forbidden West, where I was like, whoa.
Yep.
At that time, it may be still the most beautiful game I've ever seen running on a console. And then playing something more recently, like Death Stranding 2 or whatever, I'm like, how is it going to get any better than this? Like I actually I agree with you personally. I don't need more graphics. I would like more balance. And it's funny what you're saying about the CPU. It brings me back to PS3, especially with like Bethesda games, where the games would start to really suffer if you played them really wildly. Like, I don't know if you remember this, people be like, if you go into a house, close the door when you leave. Don't pick up anything off of a shelf and leave it somewhere else, because the game it remembers everything. And it has to like pull that information constantly, and you had to play around it. And it would be cool to be able to get ultimately to a place where that didn't matter, and we are in a place like that now, I suppose, but a more dynamic place, like you said, a more living world. And I think always people thought about a living world as the aesthetic, but it's not. It's about the spirit of the world. And I think that that's where we can get into some exciting things with dialogue and with all these things. And so we'll see what happens. But I think, I'm excited like you are about the handheld. And I feel like Sony is trying to rectify a situation in which they let their competitor run wild for years. And it was, anyone who listens to me for years knows I'm like, they're ceding this whole ground to Nintendo, and it's a huge mistake. And it was something like watching Nintendo have so much success with Switch, plus the success of the Steam handheld, I think proved to them, and I'm not saying success in terms of its sales, it sold a few million units or whatever, but saying like, oh, you can actually make a pretty powerful handheld at a consumer level. And I think they looked at it and said like, maybe we can go back and do it. And it's what Shuhei always said. It's like the major mistake of Vita was not its existence, but that they had to split their development resources. And now, and Nintendo proved this with Switch, if you don't have to do that, you have a very powerful first and second party conduit of games that you don't have to split up, and they can just be on everything. So I'm very, very excited about that. But I feel like what is it, Canis and something else, like those have to be released together. And so if one gets punted, the other one's going to get punted too, I think.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. I wouldn't mind it if they were like, can we get the handheld out? Let's do it. That's why it's going to be really weird when they release some PlayStation Portal 2 or revision later this year and it's an OLED screen or something. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's it. So
the Portal's so good, dude. But you're right in that they had a bunch of spare Xperia tablets. I mean, that's the whole basis of the Portal. And I think that they were really surprised by it. So it would be cool to get another one. Also, I think what you're saying is interesting in that, and I wonder where they would be now, knowing the pricing components, the economic situation in the world, the global economic situation. If a few years ago when they were making decisions, they were like, we really should have made a handheld PS5. Really, that might have been the better move. But that those just don't come out of nowhere. So
they keep talking about the Portal though. I noticed that like they'll just occasionally be like, yeah, people really like the Portal. It's extending engagement. They said at CES that 50% of all remote play happens because of the Portal. And it's like, really? How many of those have you sold? Because that seems like it's very skewed towards the Portal, just remote play being a thing at all. So, and I think about how there could be multiple tiers. You could have a console, a handheld, and a Portal device, and they wouldn't conflict with each other.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like it's funny, man, because I think if they could go back and unwind things, they might have just taken a different path, not knowing where everything's going, or not having the foresight to know where things are going and the expense that might be necessary in getting this next gen handheld out, as opposed to a current gen thing that they could have kind of really done a little bit more subtly. But it's funny, man, because I love the full circle thing of handheld gaming kind of coming back, and the resistance of, I was always of this mind, I must admit, of like people being like, well, people have their phones now and stuff like that. And I'm like, but no one wants to play a game on a phone.
Not really.
Like no one wants to play a game on it. I know there was Monument Valley and all this shit, but like for all, you want to talk about a game where it's like one game comes out and then 10,000 games come out and no one has ever heard of. That's handheld gaming, or that's mobile gaming. And so going back to handheld, I think is acceding to reality in a way that pleases me greatly, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried, like, emulation is one, and they put the buttons on the screen, and there's no feedback. It's a touch screen, and you basically have to look at where your thumbs are the whole time, and you rather the physical buttons and controls. But then it makes your phone massive, and you're playing it, and then someone texts you, and it shows up on the screen, and it's like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to get into, I don't know, Death Stranding on my phone? What is this, So
Chris always brings up on our show, like, don't get it wrong, like, it's crazy that they got like Resident Evil 4 running on a phone or something.
Oh,
like
sure.
Like, that's nuts. Or Death Stranding or something. But at the same time, yeah, you're right. It's like, but why? Like, I don't want to play like this, and that's what was so perfect about Vita, I thought, was not so much the back touch, which was stupid, but the just having like controls and two sticks, but also a touch screen. It was kind of awesome. Yep. And so like you could like, oh, I think when Killzone or whatever, like you like slashed the screen to like melee somewhere. I'm like, that's fine. But you have to give people like you're saying, the tactile feel of the button, the tactile feel of the sticks. And there were some games that did it really well, but on phone. But most games, so I just as an old school kind of person, I'm like, oh, at least we got that little win. That like the wins seem to be shifting back, and I think that's good.
I do want to ask you though, as we close out here in a little bit.
Sure.
It's been 20 years ago was the start of 2006. So we were on the path to Sony about to show up and tell us how much the PS3 cost and all that good stuff. But you think about that, and I guess 20 years ago, when you hear that out loud, you're like, wow, it really was that. It was 2 decades ago that was happening.
Yeah, man.
But again, the develop. I mean, we didn't have storefronts on our consoles back then, and now it's like synonymous. People are talking about, oh, it's going to be all digital here soon. That's how quickly things can change, shift, and evolve with technology. So, with that in mind, 20 years from now will be the start of 2046, and multiple generations, I assume, will have flown through by then. We'll have all kinds of advancements. What do you think it'll look like then in 20 years? Because by then it'll be 60, 60-year-olds, almost 60-year-olds looking at the world and probably reflecting once again on how awesome we had it with Twitter X and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's some idea. Well, one thing I want to put out there, deposit before we even say, is I feel like a lot of conventional wisdom about gaming hardware specifically has always been wrong. And we've all been in those trenches. Like, I remember the Wii, PS3, 360 generation. There were people earnestly saying, like, this is the end of consoles. Like, there will be an end. And then On Live came out and all these things that are like this, and Ouya, like, so like all these things that seemed like maybe it would puncture the armor in some way and show you a different way of doing things. And what I'm fascinated about with games is that though the way we play, a lot of games as a service, free to play, online games, all the rest, and though we consume games a little bit differently, the kind of market has not really changed that much. That's why I always say, people are like, oh, we're going to enter a gaming recession, or like some. I'm like, no, we're not. Like video games make more and more and more and more and more money. It's about how you extract the dollar. But I guess what I'm saying is that I feel like the space has remained somewhat resistant to real change. It's all about incremental change and things that can be recognizable. And I think this is a major reason why people think console gaming is stagnant. But I personally feel like console gaming feels stagnant because one of the major competitors is irrelevant now. And so that drags everyone down, and the overall cumulative numbers down. And so I guess what I'm getting to ultimately is you could see a situation in 20 years where we are still playing on gaming consoles. And I don't think that that's that weird. But there is the entire other part of it, which is, would it be something you just used? Would PlayStation just have a module on your television? Would it just be like some sort of app? This would require cloud gaming and a lot of resources. And one of the things, I actually had a guy from GeForce on the show a few weeks ago before the break. And I was asking him about this because I'm like, cloud gaming seems to be, and this idea of kind of like decentralized gaming seems to be where people want to push it. And yet I wonder who really benefits from it on the hardware or manufacturer side, because you're offloading all of the computation and power to the company. In other words, wouldn't in 2045 Sony want to say, like, you buy this PlayStation 8 or whatever it is, you plug it in, you power it, you download things, and you deal with all of that? Or do they really want it to be like everyone uses a Sony PlayStation farm, and you subscribe to PlayStation, and all of the power, we have a nuclear power plant that powers all of this shit, and a private lake that's going to cool it all. In other words, I feel like there are a lot of semantical problems stopping us, rightfully so, I think, from getting to this point of more ubiquitous hardware. And so, like, I'm much more bearish than I've ever been in terms of there being some sort of revolution, where I feel like we'll probably still be playing on dedicated hardware, like in 2046. I think that's probably what's going to happen because the economics make the most sense that way. Otherwise, you're going to have to rely on Sony to literally power your games. And I don't think they want that. It's the same thing they have now. When you boot up a PS3 game on PlayStation Now or on PlayStation Plus, it's playing on a PS3 in a server farm. It's crazy. It's not even emulated. It's a literal PlayStation 3. And it's like, they have to power that. They have a technician dealing with all that. It's like, I don't know, man. I feel like the future for these companies is to realize that there's a lot of money to be saved by just offloading it. And so I think they're going to realize that. And by the way, I think the AI boom that we're just experiencing now is showing everyone that. Where companies are starting to talk about, and I think reasonably so, like, we need to build a literal power plant to do this.
Yes.
And I just think it's like, is it really going to go in that direction? Or are they going to say, like, you use the solar panels on your house and power this bad boy? and connect to the PSN or whatever when you need to.
I do think there will be another retro boom in, honestly, probably like 10 years, maybe even sooner than that, where the boom is all about having local hardware. It's like, can you play it without it being connected to the internet and having AI run this? Yes, great. I will pay you 300% on what it originally sold for. It's kind of how cartridges and GameCube and PS2 games, all these older games, back in the day have had that, especially during COVID, initial push where they were 2 or 3 fold what they should have been. I think we'll see that, but I do have some concerns with the almost an inflection point we're at right now. And it's funny, one of the cohorts on one of the podcasts mentioned a game to me that he was going to start up, and I was like, man, I haven't played that in a while. I should go play that. Detroit Become Human.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I should go play that because it feels very relevant right now. Mm-hmm. And so, you play it and you get all these branching paths as to what can happen based on, what choices you make and stuff. And I'm hearing, I always want to listen to the people who are running things when they offhandedly say something or they try to explain what they think is going to happen. Because when they say that, in my mind, I'm thinking that's what they want to happen. And that's where a lot of the money and the force is about to go. So I think about the DRAM squeeze, the prices going up for everything, the almost move away from the personal computer. It sounds crazy, but it kind of feels like that's what they allude to. And when I hear Elon Musk say something like, hey, eventually your phone isn't going to be local, it's just everything's gonna stream. Everything you do is gonna stream, and AI will reconstruct it. And then just the other day, I think yesterday, Jeff Bezos, of course Amazon, is like, oh yeah, local compute's antiquated. Don't worry. You're going to get to the point where you rent your local compute. It'll just be streamed to you. And I start to think, man, is it really going to be 20 years from now? We look back on this time period like we do with Web 1.0, where we're like, man, remember when everything was right in front of you on your computer? And now it's all streamed and reconstructed in real time as you move your mouse around, and AI predicts what you're doing. And that's what our game consoles are like. And it sounds like this weird dystopian future, but I see ChatGPT came out end of 2022, I think, beginning of 2023. That wasn't that long ago. And it's like, man, AI generation has grown and evolved so quickly to where people can't tell what's real or not online anymore.
I'm tricked sometimes by things where I'm like, is that real? Like, is that a real video of an animal or something you see? And I'm like, really? And then I always look at the comments.
Yeah. And I don't want people to get like too caught up in it and be always like terrified of it. Cause I think there could be a utopia in 20 years. And I'm just thinking like the worst case scenario. We get past this crazy period of where jobs phase out, everyone has money, and it's like, great. But then I think about almost like the Matrix situation where it's very, very digital and you don't actually really have much in front of you in terms of local ownership or anything. And it sounds bad, but that is kind of we went from physical media. Now we're almost fully digital. And then I think about what's next, and streaming comes up, but I think just game streaming is even like the smaller piece of the pie. I think it really comes down to just streaming everything. And that, I don't know about that one. That one, concerning.
Well, I don't either, because I think you're absolutely right in that. I just think you start asking questions about like, well, why? So like I'm going to stream it from you. You're going to do all of this complicated work. Again, you're going to have all these server farms and all these places, and they have to be everywhere because, by the way, the speed of light is unconquered, right? Like, so you're going to have all these places in geographic localities. And then you're going to have all of this power consumption and do all this stuff with AI when you can just you could sell me a piece of hardware. I power it. I buy the game from you. I connect to you via PSN, and then I play it on my own. It goes to the point of like, what are you solving for? What are you trying to do? I think it's a reasonable question to ask. And I think people are going to, I think you're absolutely right that the more complex this gets and the more expensive, because a lot of AI companies are going to die. I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, AI is going to crater. And I'm like, no. There's going to be major winners and major losers. And I think what people are going to realize is like, maybe all this cost is solving for a problem that's making things more complicated than they need to be. And
right.
So I think we're in the same place where I'm like, I don't have much of a mind for hardware, but I used to expect back in my younger days, like a bigger change. And now I'm wondering, and you said it exactly, will we instead revert to the mean and realize that we actually don't need much more than what we have right now? And And by the way, that all of this is being made more expensive because of this drive for components that are pricing people out of the way they do things now. So there's going to be a lot of rage, I think, pent up over the years to come too, as things get worse and worse and more out of hand. But I like your optimism about a utopia, but I don't see this. And by the way, it's not even games; it's just everything. It seems like we're entering a true sci-fi dystopia in the coming decades. So we'll have to escape to our games at some point to get away from all of it.
That's the thing. It's like, can I play this offline? Can I literally unplug it, not have to worry about any kind of connection to the internet, and just play my PS2? And it's like, yes, you can. I'll give you $1,000 for that because of hyperinflation. Thank you. You know what does worry me, Colin, about all this? I will say, as we close out, the response when people go, how are you going to figure this out? As you mentioned, like, there's so many things that need to be resolved and figure and literally overcome, speed of light, etc. The answer, I swear, comes up all the time is AI will fix it. Basically, AI will figure it out. It's like, oh, so we don't really know. We just think AI will figure it out. That people think AI is going to discover and cure disease and overcome all of our limitations as humans. So I hope so, because that's, I don't know, if it doesn't, I don't know. That seems like a lot of money and time and effort wasted. So,
well, I think AI is a double-edged sword in that I think, because it's a lot of things, right? But it will cure cancer. Like, I do believe that it will do that. Like it will do it like on an individualized basis where they like run 1 billion simulations for you and figure out like what works for your body and your system and all the rest. Like that's going to happen. They're going to cure, and really already are curing, and are, with Neuralink and all these things and all these different technologies, blindness and deafness and immobility and all of these kinds of things, solving some people's disabilities. That's one side of it. The other side is like the erosion of meaning and the arts and the humanities, and what stops it. And again, it's like I said, just crawl into the fucking battery pod already at that point. Just do it. What's the point? Just live in a simulation. If that's what you want, then just do it. But I feel like there's something, I don't want to say emasculating, that's not really the right word, but just like it's dehumanizing. It's like, and that's why I think that this game was made, we have like the ESRB ratings and all the rest. It's like, there will be ratings, I think, at some point where it's like made without AI or whatever, or no AI used kind of thing. Because I think people will ultimately want to differentiate between that. That's my hope.
Sure. Well, that was a fun hour conversation.
Yeah, that was fun. Thank you for having me.
It was a good talk. That is Colin Moriarty. You can find him over at Last Stand Media. I will have it linked down below in the description. Go check him out. You guys got anything coming up? I think you guys just did your draft for Metacritic, right? Yeah, we did our Metacritic draft. Yeah, we just do a small stream every Monday, but yeah, nothing real. Actually, our 400th episode's coming up for Sacred Symbols is coming up in March, but we would usually do that live, but I'm so sick of live shows that we just don't do that anymore. It's just so much work and logistical stuff to make a few $1,000s in profit or something, or even break even. We actually lost a little money on our last live show because we had to fly so many people out and put so many people up. So I'm like, we'll just do the 400th episode on, video or something like that. But so that's coming up. But otherwise, we just kind of hold steady and just do our thing. We appreciate everyone's support over there. And it's always good to hear from you. I hope you're having a good new year so far. You and the family are doing well. And I hope we get to collaborate again soon. Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm sure we'll pop up again in people's subscription feeds with something else. I'm gonna do a yearly check-in or something. I don't know. We'll see what we got. But anytime you need me for Sacred Symbols Plus or
Sacred Symbols Plus
any other shows.
Have you been on Summon Sign at all with Brad? Like
Yep.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, that's a great place to have guests.
Had a lot of fun there.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So I know your names in, because we have a small docket of people we like to reach out to. So yeah, I'm sure we'll have you on in the weeks and months to come. Okay, good stuff. Hopefully, we didn't terrify people about AI, but everyone take care of themselves. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.